One of the last things I wanted to mention was the fact that the devil is definitely in the details. Creating harmony with all of your fonts across all mediums, like I said before, is definitely something very important because it gives stability and trust for your brand. Sorry. And the very last thing is good typography is beautiful. I mean, let's be honest. We want to make sure that what we're saying is easily read and it's easily understood from everyone. And like Stephen was saying, because the way technology is today, we don't have to stick with the ones that we've used in the past. We can be a little bit fancier with what we're using, but we have to make sure that we're getting the right message across.
All righty. So the next one on the list is the under Accept User Needs. We have an example from Kickstarter and their job site, which we really like. I'm going to pull this one up so we can take a look. So this one, Kickstarter really focuses on the needs of the user, and they do this in a few different ways. But, you know, the one thing that we all know is that we have plenty of folks who come through and apply for a job who never really look at any of the great materials and things about what it's like to work there, what the culture is like. And so Kickstarter knew that, and instead of trying to make people go and learn about things that they really didn't want to learn about, they gave them a button to just, you know, go straight to the current openings right there in the middle, that big green one that says current openings. So that's really terrific. The other thing that they did was they knew that, you know, they're not a massive company. They have just a handful of areas that they hire for, and they put direct links straight to those right on the main page of the site. So again, this gets straight back to the user needs that, you know, somebody who's interested in a job that's an executive assistant is not going to be interested in any of these others. So it gives them just a really quick way to get straight in to see those job openings. The other thing that, of course, is obvious on this that's kind of really interesting, and again, the link will be available so you guys can take a look at these yourself, but that homepage video is super impressive in that you get a little motion, you can see kind of people in the background moving, and then every so often you have kind of those people who like walk up, you know, like it's like you're kind of like you're standing right there.
And I think that what's really interesting about this from a artistic perspective is that it's really conveying a sense of authenticity. You do feel like you're a fly on the wall instead of feeling like you're being marketed at, which is particularly important that we're hearing more and more because we know that people trust people and people trust sort of what feels natural to them way more than they're going to trust anything else.
Yep.
The next one that we want to look at is Adidas Retail Jobs. This is a new site that, or newer site that we've run across, and we are really big fans of it here for a few reasons. One, because it's frankly gorgeous. It also uses really nice, big, fat fonts that convey the Adidas brand quite well. It's also a site that also faces a challenge that a lot of clients we know face, which is you've got a number of brands that have to roll up into one site. How do you do that well? And they've actually done a really good job at sort of telling the brand story here from a top-level brand, but also from an individual store brand. But importantly, from an Accepting User Needs site, they made it really easy and realized that people don't want to wade through 1,000 menus. People want to go to what they want to go to. So they made it really easy to say, see our jobs, find your fit, explore stores, or ready to shine, which is a little bit less clear on what that is, but I think they probably assume that fewer people were going to click on the kind of mission overall selling of the story than they would on fit and jobs. But I think if we click on Find Your Fit, what they've done really well here is realizing that from a user perspective, if you're in retail, you kind of understand that there's a natural hierarchy. And that's really important to sort of convey here. And so it's a different way of doing user pathing that shows you kind of the entire user path. What we also really like is if you click on something like Level 2 here, so you get the typical user path, which a lot of different sites have. But what's really cool is actually if you look up at that fit, there's a little progress bar on there. And depending on what level you pick, that progress bar fills up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, which is just a nice little design detail. And these are the types of things that you can implement that, you know, aren't probably going to make or break your experience, but make it feel a little bit more special to the candidate. But again, I think accepting the user needs that the user is probably going to care about the fit, and they're going to care about the jobs and the stores, and those are the things that your eye immediately goes to very easily. Makes it super easy for the user to navigate the site and really understand what a job at Adidas might give them. As well, I think that this site just is worth exploring in the sense that it really does retail in a different way, and I think it sort of presents a pretty modern vision of this. We were trying to guess at who did this. We kind of feel like this is probably a little bit closer to the consumer side, but I think that for Adidas, which is such a well-known consumer brand, that really, really makes sense. And that's one of the things that you need to consider when you're considering the look and feel of your site. If you are a brand that really doesn't have a strong consumer presence or a holding group for whatever reason, your career site doesn't really have to match your consumer brand all that heavily. But if you're a company that's really particularly well known through your consumer brand, you really need to make sure that the two are aligned, and particularly if you're rolling out any sort of new kind of branding or logos or fonts, so that users really have a consistent experience across all the sites that you're going to.